From Tampa Bay's #1 news station, this is the Fox 13 4 o'clock news.
Well, it is that time of year. Now that the holidays are here, a lot of us will be traveling to see our family and friends. But it's not just packed roads and airports you need to be concerned about. There could also be some legal issues to consider. Attorney Jim Giardina with the Consumer Rights Law Group joins us. So what do we need to consider, first of all, if we know we're going to have to be traveling over the holidays?
You know, when it comes to legal issues and travel, I think of three things.
Okay.
The first thing is car rental. Right? Second thing is my airline tickets, and the third is hotel. I think if you cover your legal issues in these three areas, you're covering most of your legal issues for your trip.
All right, well, let's start with the hotel. I guess one of my questions would be, what if you don't pay until you get there, and you get there late, your flight gets delayed? I mean, what are your legal rights with that?
All right, so you know, there's two kinds of ways you could book your hotel. You can pay in advance, or you can not pay in advance.
Right.
Well, there's no actual statutory law governing hotels, and it's going to vary from state to state. But ultimately, when you make your reservation, you are making a contract, and like any other contract, there's obligations of both parties. So if you don't show up and you don't cancel within your cancellation period, of course, the hotel is going to charge you, and we expect that they're going to charge you. More importantly, though, what about when you go to the hotel and they don't have a room for you? Now, the hotel is obligated under that contract to provide a room for you. Maybe it's not going to be the ocean view that you wanted. It'll be a park view instead, but they do have to give you a room. Now, if they don't give you a room,
because they're full.
Yeah, when you're at 100% capacity, it doesn't matter what a contract says, they can't give you a room. Now, in those situations, especially when you've paid in advance, they've got an obligation to get you similar housing for your trip, right? So maybe there's a hotel down the street or across the street or even on the other side of town. The hotel has to put you up. If they don't, now they're on the hook. The problem is going to be you don't want to wait until your vacation is over before you go after the hotel, right? So what you want to do, you want to be nice. You want to find on your own phone similar accommodations, show it to the manager, make the suggestion yourself. Because if they're overbooked, they've probably got other problems too and don't have the manpower to deal with it.
And you just, at that point, you're just arriving on your vacation. You really just want to get into a room and
yeah,
so,
of course.
Got it. All right, what about renting a vehicle? What do we need to keep our eyes on that?
You know, the lines, when we go to the line at the car rental place is never a short line. It's always long, and there's always this big form they want you to fill out. So there's two big questions they ask you. The first is, do you want the insurance, right? And the second is, do you want the vehicle damage liability waiver, right? So the liability waiver, that's not insurance. That's just the rental company saying, hey, if you crack up the car, we're not going to come after you for the cost of repairs. But the insurance, a lot of times you don't need it. If you already have car insurance, your own car insurance, your policy is going to cover you if you're driving your car, if you're driving your sister's car, or if you're driving your rental car, right? Now, there's other kind of insurance that might cover you too. If you have health insurance, your health insurance company is going to cover you whether you got hurt at home or whether you got hurt in the car, right? And a lot of times a credit card, depending on what credit card you're using, they'll offer the perk of rental car insurance. Now, of course, you've got to use that card for your rental car. Right. Exactly. If you have questions, it's easy. Call your insurance company and ask them, do you cover me with a rental car? You can save hundreds of dollars. Call your credit card company and ask them the same thing.
Well, this is a big one. Airlines, always seem to get overbooked now. So what if you get bumped and there's no seat for you? What are your rights?
Well, you actually have more rights with the airlines in terms of getting bumped than you do with hotels, because airlines, they're governed by the Department of Transportation, they're governed by the FAA. So here's what the rule is. Airlines, they're going to overbook because they have a business decision to make, and they know that on a certain number of flights, a certain number of people they're going to have no-shows. So let's say they sell 103 tickets and there's only 100 seats. The first rule is they have to ask for people to be bumped voluntarily. FAA rules, Department of Transportation rules say that if they don't ask, they can't start involuntarily bumping people. So, if you are asked, you should ask if you are asked to be voluntarily bumped, a lot of times they'll offer you some kind of perk, right? We'll pay for your meals, or we'll give you a voucher for a credit, or maybe even a hotel. Before you say yes, the first thing you want to do is you want to ask, will I be flying standby, or am I guaranteed a seat on that next flight? And that's when, maybe you want to negotiate or just be happy with whatever they offer you. Or, if you don't want to be bumped, just say no. So then, once everyone's said no, if they're still overbooked, then we get into involuntary bumping. And every airline, they have different rules on who they're going to choose to bump involuntarily, but here's what the rules say. if your your involuntary bump is going to result in you being less than an hour late, then they don't have to give you any compensation.
Got it.
But they do always have an obligation to get you to your final destination. If you're going to be more than an hour late, they've got to get you to your final destination, and they've got to pay you double the price of your ticket.
Well, that seems fair.
If you're going to be 2 hours late or more, they've got to pay you 4 times the price of your ticket. So that's something to keep in mind when they ask you for the voluntary bump. If they're looking for volunteers, maybe you have some wiggle room there.
Wow, I had no idea, though, 4 times the price of your ticket.
Yes, 4
That's
times.
good advice.
Now, and they have to pay you that day.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Good advice to know, Jim.
The important thing is if it's delayed because of weather or because you missed your flight, that doesn't count.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Back to you, Kelly.
Good advice. Thank you.